Hello, welcome to Raymond Castile's Basement of Horror. Today we're going to look at the new Mego Boris Karloff Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein. So let's just get right to it here. Here is the new Boris Karloff Mego Frankenstein. It has an official likeness of Boris Karloff. And miracle of miracles, it has a black jacket. In fact, it's dressed completely in black. Here is the back of the card with a nice spooky image of Boris as the Frankenstein monster. So, this is a rather historic toy. Before we talk more about it, let's show his counterpart. Mego has also released a Bride of Frankenstein. Universal Studios Bride of Frankenstein. And I won't do the bells this time whenever I say Bride of Frankenstein. If you've been watching this show for a while, you know I like to say it like Dr. Pretorius. And we'll talk more about her and her origins later. Let's just show the toy right now. Here's the back of the card. That's a still from the movie Bride of Frankenstein, so that's the actual Elsa Lanchester movie Bride of Frankenstein lying on that table. I don't know if it was Elsa in those scenes. It looks like her shape, actually. I mean, that does look like it's really Elsa in those bandages. I don't know if she had a double for scenes like that. I don't know. It does look like her. It looks like her hips and her arms and her, you know, her body language. But who knows? It might have been a double. And on the front of this Frankenstein monster, that's from the movie as well. That's a still from the movie. And you can tell it's not a stock image or whatever, because, I mean, I can just in general, but these big boards on the monster's feet, these weird boards, I don't know what those were for, but I think there's actually like a surgical reason for those, like to stabilize, because I've seen people in medical situations and in training exercises and things with stuff like that. I think it's to stabilize in real life, I think it's to stabilize broken bones and things. I don't know what logic it would have in this fantasy context of stitching a body together. I don't know if that was Boris in the movie on the table or a stand-in, but that's definitely an image from the movie. That's not a stock image. And this looks like an image from the movie as well. Just those Kenneth Strickfaden equipment, the lab equipment, you can just tell it's from the movie. So usually Mego puts stock art on their cards, and here they're putting stills from the movie, images from the movie on the front and the back. Let's have the money shot of the two of them together. And of course, she's looking away from him, just as she does in the movie. She rejects him in the movie, and she's rejecting him here as well. No, wait. Let's have a happy ending for this couple. Let's rewrite the movie. That's better. But now he's he's not rejecting her, but he's not looking at her either. But at least she's interested in him now. So we're heading towards a happier conclusion. In the movie, she's disgusted with him. She just hisses at him. She wants nothing to do with him. So there they are, the official Universal Studios Mego Frankenstein's Monster and Bride of Frankenstein. And the monster is a Boris Karloff likeness. The bride is not officially an Elsa Lanchester likeness. We can talk about that later. So she looks reasonably like Elsa Lanchester, but she's not officially supposed to be Elsa Lanchester for licensing reasons. We'll just set her over here for the moment. We'll set both of them over here for the moment. Okay. So, this is a big deal because this is the first time that Mego has ever had a licensed Universal Studios Frankenstein. This is the first time they've had the Universal license. I wish when they got the license they would have launched it with this Frankenstein instead of that creature that we saw a couple episodes ago. I was going to say the MC creature. It's the Mego creature, but it's a reissue of the MC creature from 10 years ago. Instead of launching the license with a reissue, I wish they had launched it with this Frankenstein. Because this is really, it's historic for a number of reasons. It's the first Mego licensed Universal Studios Frankenstein. It's the first Mego Boris Karloff Frankenstein. Previous modern Mego Frankensteins have used different versions of the MC Frankenstein figure head sculpt with the electrodes removed. And that head sculpt is based on Glenn Strange. Unofficially, I don't think there was any Glenn Strange information on that card, but that's what that MC Frankenstein head sculpt was based on Glenn Strange's likeness. The Mego Frankensteins, and there have been several. Now, if you want to see the evolution of the modern Mego Frankenstein, go to the MIB Master Toy Museum YouTube channel, because he just recently put up a video where he shows all the different 21st century Mego Frankensteins and how they've progressed over the years. The last, was it been 3 years, 2 or 3 years? And they're all variations on that MC from the EMCE, MC Frankenstein, MC Diamond Select Frankenstein from 10 years ago until now. This one is an original figure. At least that the head is all new. I've been told that the head resembles the Billiken vinyl Frankenstein model kit. It's a Japanese model kit from, I think, the late 1980s. I don't have that kit, so I can't verify that. I don't have it to compare. If you do, take a look at it. Let me know. Does the new Mego Frankenstein, does the head resemble the Billiken Frankenstein from the 80s? I would be interested in knowing if there's a strong resemblance. Something more than just, they're both Frankenstein, obviously, but does it look like like this was modeled off of that? I don't know. But a friend made that observation, and he's very astute and very detail-oriented, so if he thinks it's so, then it's probably so, but I can't vouch for that personally. Haven't seen it, I haven't compared them. But anyway, this Frankenstein, I mean, it's an interesting Karloff likeness. It's not the way modern toys and models and things usually depict Karloff. It's a little, the attitude of it is a little different. But I like it. It's Mego-esque. I like that. It looks like a Mego Frankenstein. And I like his little eyes. They're cute. I like that. He looks more and more like Karloff, I think, from the side. He looks like Karloff all the way around. That really looks like Karloff right there. He's definitely Karloff. No doubt about that. But he's got just sort of the attitude of the face, the expression is a little different from what a lot of sculptors do with Karloff in recent years. Now, another friend mentioned the Widow's Peak and said he didn't like that. The Widow's Peak would be this point where the hair, it's got like a little cowlick kind of point right there on the forehead. You could say that's a Widow's Peak, kind of like what Dracula would have, even though Bela Lugosi really didn't have a very pronounced Widow's Peak. Dracula's always depicted as having a exaggerated Widow's Peak. And the Karloff Frankenstein did not have a Widow's Peak. I don't think any of the Universal Frankensteins had a Widow's Peak. So that's different. That's an interesting choice. But that's okay. I don't mind that. I think that's getting a lot of glare here. Let's see if I can... trying to get rid of some of this glare. The thing is, anytime you have a toy, it's all in black. You get a lot of this. You get a lot of this reflection. You can see everything reflected in it. The black really reflects, whereas comparison. You see, it doesn't do that with the Bride. You don't have that problem. But anytime you have a toy that's all in black like that, it gets a lot of reflection and glare, and it's kind of hard to see some of the details. Yeah, a lot of you can see the camera reflected in it. Well, anyway, we will endeavor to endure. So, yeah, it has that widow's peak. I don't mind the widow's peak. It makes it a unique take on the character. You know, it makes it look different from other Frankensteins. It kind of gives it an Elvis-like quality, don't you think? It kind of has that Elvis look. But I like it. Here's, you can see he's got those modern Mego monster hands. They have the modern Mego monsters have these big hands. And I like that. 70s Mego monsters had very different hands. And I like that they changed it and created new monster hands. He has platform boots. There, you can see it. And in the movie, he wore asphalt layer boots. People who laid asphalt. They have these thick boots with these high platforms underneath. And the boots he wore in the movie went up to his knees, but they were under his pants. And I've heard that these boots perhaps were used on one of the Kiss figures, but I don't know about that. I don't know if that's true. But that's some of the talk I've read online, that these were originally used for one of the Mego Kiss figures. I don't know if that's so. And it's interesting that he has all black on black on black on black. But, you know, that's cool. I like that. I like that he's goth. He's dreary. He's got all that black. So for so many years, for 30 years, we've had nothing but Frankensteins with green jackets. If it was Universal Studios licensed, Universal Studios Frankenstein, it had a green jacket. And anyone who knows me, who's watched the show or read anything I've written about Frankenstein toys in the last 30 years, they know I hate that green jacket. Oh, I hate the green jacket. It's just the stupidest thing. And how we got stuck with that for 30 years, I don't know. Some idiot in the Universal licensing department 30 years ago decided Frankenstein wore a green jacket, and they just stubbornly stuck to that for a generation. And it just ruins Frankenstein's look. He doesn't wear a jolly green jacket. He's in black. He's dreary. He's goth. He's a monster. He's scary and creepy. He's not going to golf. He's not dressed for St. Patrick's Day. He's in black. He's deathly. So thank goodness somebody at Universal came to their senses and finally eradicated that green jacket. I don't know if it was Mego that stepped up and requested the black jacket, or if that's what we're going to have from now on, that they've changed their style guide and now all the Frankensteins are going to have black jackets. I hope so. I hope this is a permanent change in the style guide. Interestingly, the first the modern Mego Frankenstein had a green jacket even though it wasn't Universal licensed, which I thought was weird. I mean, if it's a generic Frankenstein, it doesn't have a Universal license, why would you be beholden to that stupid green jacket? You don't have to go by their style guide because it's not licensed. But the first one they put out, the one that was sold at Target, had a green jacket. But the tyranny of the green jacket is over. I hope. I hope it's not a temporary I hope it's not temporary. I hope that it's permanent. So let's look at the first Mego Frankenstein. Okay. Oh, he's got some smudges on this thing. So, here is the 1970s Mego Mad Monsters Frankenstein. That is an original 1970s Mego Frankenstein. And you can see, I mean, he looks like a Mego. He looks like kind of like a superhero version of Frankenstein. And does he have a belt? Yeah, you can't see it because the jacket's covering up. He's got like a gold belt. You can barely, there it is. You can see the reflection. And there's those monster hands I was telling you about. That in the 70s, those were the Mego monster hands, and a lot of the reissues of these 70s Mego monsters, so they've been reissued a few times in the last 15 years. The reissues try to mimic those monster hands. So I'm glad Mego didn't go with that. They have new monster hands that are big and kind of scary looking. These are nice and creepy looking. I'm glad that these old ones had those hands. Those are, you know, characteristic of what these things were, but I'm glad that we have something new now. And you can see this jacket. It's kind of short. It doesn't hang down as far as you would think. He doesn't have big boots. He has boots, but not big ones. And his head is, I mean, this is not a universal, this is a generic. All the Mego monsters from the 70s were unlicensed generic monsters. So this is not Boris Karloff, it's not even universal. It's cool, it's very 70s, but it's not universal. So that is the 1970s original Mego Mad Monsters Frankenstein. And just for the heck of it, here's his back if you want to see what he looks like from behind. Just for the record. And his eyes and hands glow in the dark. So his not his whole head, just his eyes and his hands glow in the dark. And modern Mego, in the last couple of years, has made some glow-in-the-dark Frankensteins using that modified MC sculpt head without the electrodes. This new Universal Frankenstein has the electrodes. That's one of the elements of Universal's trademark, that one of the things that identifies a Frankenstein monster as the Universal version would be the electrodes on the neck. This 70s Mego Frankenstein has the electrodes on the temples. And that became a thing. A lot of generic Frankenstein toys going way back before into the 60s, maybe even the 50s, had electrodes on the temples. I don't know who was the first. I don't know where that came from, what product did that first, or what illustration did that first. But I'm pretty sure it goes back to the 50s. I don't, you know, I wouldn't swear to that, but I think that started in the 50s. This idea that a non-universal Frankenstein would have electrodes on the temples instead of the neck, as a way to identify it as Frankenstein without violating Universal's, I don't know if it's a trademark or a copyright. I would think that would be a trademark, but I'm not sure. They're intellectual property. Now, in the 70s, in the 1970s, Universal did not have, Mego did not have the Universal license. Azrak-Hamway International did. So this is the first, Azrak-Hamway is the company that had the first Universal Studios licensed 8-inch Frankenstein monster action figure. And I stopped myself from saying this was the first because there are different variations of the Azrak-Hamway Frankenstein figure, and it's debatable which one came first, but current scholarship would indicate that this is not the first version. That the first version was probably the one with painted hands and a slightly fatter head. So here is this 1970s. It's a contemporary of the one we just saw from Mego, but this one's made by Azrak-Hamway International, and it's licensed to Universal Studios Frankenstein, Mego style 8-inch action figure. And you can see that this is more, see my whole basement there? That reflection just drives me nuts. You can see that this is more gothic, it's more creepy and horror oriented, and it's more authentic. It looks more like the movie Frankenstein, the one in the film. And the head is definitely Boris Karloff. This is before the days of actor likeness licensing. That at that time you didn't get a license to do an actor likeness. That was Universal would say that they had the rights to grant that that likeness. The estate of Bela Lugosi would say differently, and that's when that whole dispute got started about who owns the actor likeness. Even though Universal owned the character, did they own the actor likeness? Now the reason this looks so good is because Azrak-Hamway stole the sculpt from the Aurora model kits. Aurora made these iconic Universal Monsters model kits in the 1960s and reissued them in the 70s. And the reissue came just before these Azrak-Hamway toys came out. And the artwork on the back of the card is ripped off of the Aurora box art. That's beautiful art. I mean, if ripped off or not, I don't care. It's beautiful art. So this is the first licensed Universal Studios 8-inch Frankenstein. And not only that, and when I say this, I mean I'm using this to represent all Azrak-Hamway Frankensteins, all the variations. This is stand-in to represent all of them. So this, the Azrak-Hamway Frankenstein, in all its variants, is the first licensed Universal Studios Frankenstein 8-inch action figure. And not only was it the first, it was the only Mego style 8-inch Universal Frankenstein until now. Remco, which was the same company as Azrak-Hamway, just a different division, Remco made a 9-inch Universal Studios Frankenstein. And you can say it's Mego style, it's Mego-like, but it's 9 inches, it's not 8 inches, and it's got action feature with the arms. It's not a Mego. You know, it's not a Mego or a Mego knockoff. It's similar, but it's not an 8-inch Mego style figure. It's 9 inches. It's more like a Big Jim figure. Sideshow made an 8-inch Universal Studios Frankenstein, but it's not Mego style. It has sculpted on clothes that are, you know, molded as part of the toy. Imperial made Frankenstein that I want to say was maybe 9 inches. It could have been 8. I don't know. I'm trying to imagine it, how big it is. I don't know, but it's roughly Mego-ish, Mego size. But again, its clothing is sculpted on. It's not wearing any clothes. It's it's all PVC or all vinyl figure. No fabric parts. And we've seen the Telco monsters on the show. They're again sculpted on clothes. Going back into the 70s, there was Lincoln International Frankenstein, but that wasn't Universal. It was generic. There was a Tomlin Frankenstein, but that was generic. That wasn't Universal. Hasbro in the 90s, Hasbro, Kenner, same company then, made that 12-inch Frankenstein that we saw, and that was Universal, licensed Universal Studios, and it was Boris Karloff. Not a great likeness, but it was supposed to be Boris Karloff. But that was 12 inches. And Sideshow made a 12-inch Boris Karloff Universal Frankenstein, and also many other different 12-inch Universal Frankensteins from different films and different actors playing him. But that was 12-inch. And there have been a lot of other Universal licensed Frankenstein toys. But the only Mego style 8-inch Universal Studios Boris Karloff licensed Frankenstein figures are this Azrak-Hamway and now this Mego. 2 in 50 years. So this is only the second figure in 50 years to be a Mego style 8-inch costumed action figure of Frankenstein licensed through Universal Studios with Boris Karloff's face. It's only the second time this has ever happened in 50 years. In the history of this style of action figure, this 8-inch style of action figure. And before 8-inch, like the 60s with the 12-inch G.I. Joe and Captain Action, there were no Universal monsters in those figures. So going back into, if you want to talk about the dawn of action figures in the 60s, now going back almost 60 years, it's only the second time in 60 years we've had an action figure like this. But I think it's more appropriate to think in terms of the dawn of the 8-inch figure. So the 8-inch Mego style figure came about in the early 70s. And since then, 2 Universal Frankenstein Boris Karloff figures. Let's get a shot of both of these. If I can hold them together. If I had a third arm, I would have the Mad Monster Frankenstein up here. So there we go. There's the continuum there. There's the first Universal licensed Frankenstein from the 70s, and now the second Universal licensed Mego style Frankenstein, almost 50 years later. Which one's better? Well, I mean, I prefer the old one, but they're both great. They're both great figures. So this new Frankenstein is historic. It's only the second time this has ever happened, and it's the first time in almost 50 years. And it's an example of Mego getting it right. And Mego has gotten a lot wrong since it came back, with good reason. I've been very critical of some of their decisions, and many people out there have been far more critical than I. So, you know, every move they've made has not been gold. But this is the right move, making this Frankenstein. This was a good idea. I'm glad they didn't take the easy way out, and they didn't reissue the MC again, only this time with the electrodes intact. I wonder if there was an initiative in the company to say, let's put out this iconic Karloff Frankenstein that we've never done before. Let's do something special. Or did Universal insist that their style guide licensing requirements would not allow the MC to be used again, that it didn't match what they wanted with the style guide, so they had no choice but to do this? I wonder what the decision making was. Whatever the reason, the result is a great figure, and historic figure, a big deal for a monster collector. Let's look at this Bride of Frankenstein again. Here she is, the Bride of Frankenstein. And she looks like she would glow in the dark, but she doesn't. She's green all over. Her little green hands. Hard to see that one. And even her toes are green. You can see them kind of there. I think you can see that one. It's kind of poking out there. So she's all green. She's all green all over. And I like that she's got real bandages. It's not like a bandage costume. It's actual bandages. Now, unlike the Frankenstein, this Bride of Frankenstein is a reissue of the MC Diamond Select Bride of Frankenstein figure from a decade ago. Here is the original MC Bride of Frankenstein. Except for the color of her skin, it's the same figure. Now this figure is not an Elsa Lanchester licensed likeness, but you can see it's got Elsa in the back there. That's Elsa back there in the picture. And that this illustration and that little portrait looks like Elsa. And that is Elsa in the back, you know, behind the figure on the card. But the figure itself is not licensed as an Elsa Lanchester likeness officially. You can see she's white all over. Whereas the new one is green. The early one is white. Now let me see if I can find any differences here. No. No, it's the same head. Everything's the same, except one is molded in green, and the other one, I don't know if the MC is molded in white or if the face is painted white. It looks like the face might be painted white. I'm not sure. Yeah, it could be molded in black for the hair, and then the face might be painted white. I don't know. I don't know. Can't tell. The face looks a little shiny for that to be the color of the PVC material. But it could be. So here they are side by side. I think the MC looks better. It's just something, not just because of the color, just kind of, looks more put together. It just, the paint looks a little more detailed and a little more carefully applied. Although the streaks in the hair are the same on both of them. You would think that there might be some variation with that, but there isn't. The streaks are the same. The gray streaks on the sides. Costume is the same. Really, the only difference is the skin. That one's green and one's white. I prefer the white. I think that's more in character. But I like that they made her green because it differentiates it from the original. And it's just a new take. There's never been a green Bride of Frankenstein toy that I'm aware of. There have been several from Bride of Frankenstein figures of different kinds. Aurora made a model kit. There was a rubber jiggler. Oh, I don't know. Recently there was a bendy. Hasbro made one, a 12-inch. Sideshow made an 8-inch all PVC and a 12-inch. I think they made a little big heads figure of her. Telco made motionettes, battery operated and electric. So there's been several Bride toys and masks and various stuff, and they always make her white. But with Frankenstein's monster, the male monster, they usually make him green. So why is he green, but the bride is white? Well, now she's green too. Not the same shade as the monster, unfortunately. I don't know why they did that. I mean, I like that they made her green. It's cool, it's a different take. But why not make them both the same shade? Isn't that kind of strange? Why not make them both the same shade of green? And I would have preferred that Frankenstein's shade of green would have been used on the bride instead of the bride's green used on Frankenstein, because the bride is more she's greener. She's more of a kind of a what flavor would this be? This flavor, is it like a lime green? No, minty green, I don't know. Avocado green, no. What kind of green is that? It's not pea green. I'm not sure how I would characterize this green, but she's a more vivid green than Frankenstein. Frankenstein is the male monster is a more muted green, a more subdued green, which I think is better. So I would have rather seen them both that muted, kind of drab green instead of the bright, vivid green of the bride. But at the end of the day, I'm glad she's green instead of white. It's different. It makes her different from the MC. It's just a different take. It's not been done before. It makes it unique. So there's that. Speaking of Telco, I don't know if you can see this up here. Can I get this off? I hung that up as decoration for this episode because, dealing with Frankenstein stuff. But it's up so high, I don't think you can see it. This is a Telco Frankenstein head. And its eyes light up and it laughs. It's motion activated. That's Telco. It's not a motionette, but it's from the company that makes motionettes. Or at least they did make them in the 80s and the early 90s. So that's a Frankenstein motion-activated Halloween decoration from Telco. I'm looking at this sticker. Was it year 1990? Yep, 1990. So nice when it actually has the date on the package. 1990 Telco Creations. But look at that sticker. Is that a Venture sticker? That green? I mean, it doesn't say Venture on it, but I think that's a Venture sticker. I probably did buy this from Venture in 1990. I bet I did. And Telco always has this great cheesy artwork. These illustrations that look kind of like clip art. And that's classic Telco style sculpture. Here's what it looks like in the back. So he was supposed to just hang up there behind me, but I think he's up so high that you can't see him, so I took him down to show you. Well, some final thoughts on this Frankenstein. And the Bride, of course. I would have rather that they had sculpted a new head for the Bride and made an original figure. But if they have to reissue the MC, at least they made it green. At least they did something different with it. That's good. And I wish that they're going to reissue the MC Wolfman in this series, this Universal series. And the MC Wolfman is not a great figure. Not a great head sculpt. Is, not very good. So I'm not really looking forward to that, but we will have it here and we'll review it. But boy, I wish they, particularly for that Wolfman, I wish they'd make a different head for that. But we'll talk more about that when the time comes. At least with this Bride, at least she's green. So that makes her a little different. It's a different take on the character. That's good. With the Frankenstein, the male monster, the Frankenstein monster, one thing that struck me when I saw the images of it online, I didn't realize how much I missed that look. The look of like the Azrak-Hamway figure, I didn't realize how much I missed this 8-inch black Frankenstein with a black jacket and the serious-looking Universal head sculpt. I hadn't seen a new figure like that. Not a new one since I was a little kid and I saw the original Azrak-Hamway figures as a child. I hadn't seen another new 8-inch black jacket Karloff face Universal Frankenstein since I was a child, since the 1970s. So I didn't realize how much I missed that until I saw the first pictures of this. And it was kind of a shock of emotion seeing it again. It's like a long-lost friend that you didn't realize you were missing. And also a little bit of anger at Universal for denying us stuff like this. For 30 years, we've had that idiotic green jacket. Some idiotic person at Universal mandated that stupid green jacket. And so for 30 years, we've been denied a decent Frankenstein figure with the proper clothes. So to finally see it all come together again, the right colors, the right likeness, licensed in this scale and the style with the fabric costume, to see it all come together was a big deal. Now, when I was talking about like other recent Frankenstein figures, I forgot to mention the Mezco 1/6 scale Frankenstein, which does have a black jacket, and it is fabric, but it's 6 inches instead of 8 inches, so it's small. So yeah, there's that in recent years, but it's still not a Mego style 8-inch Frankenstein. You know, it's noticeably smaller. But I want to mention that because that's also a significant licensed Universal Boris Karloff Frankenstein figure from recent years. But it was interesting that I didn't realize the extent to which we'd been denied something special for so long. You would think someone else would have made a toy like this in 50 years. Since the Azrak one, you would think somebody would have done that, but no one has. So it's cool to see this exist again. And I know Mego, at some point, I'm sure they'll make a Universal Mummy, and they'll probably just reissue the MC Diamond Select Karloff Imhotep mummy head. I wish they wouldn't, but you know, it's probably what they will do. But at the very least, I would hope they consider making the mummy bandaged like this bride with actual bandages. Because that's another thing we haven't seen since the 70s. We haven't seen an 8-inch tall Mego style bandaged mummy. The Hasbro 12-inch and the Sideshow 12-inch mummies are bandaged, but they're 12 inches tall. We haven't seen a Mego style bandaged, wrapped up mummy since the 70s. Azrak-Hamway made a mummy, and Lincoln made an unlicensed generic mummy, and they were both bandaged. Tomlin made a mummy, but it didn't have bandages. Remco, their 9-inch mummy, did not have bandages. It had a like pajama, printed suit with printed bandages. And maybe I'm forgetting something. I think that might, just those two, the Azrak-Hamway and the Lincoln, might be the only bandaged mummies until the Hasbro. And Hasbro did 2 12-inch bandaged mummies, and Sideshow did 1. So that's another thing we haven't seen in almost 50 years. We haven't seen an 8-inch Mego style bandaged mummy with actual bandages wrapped up. I mean, maybe I'm forgetting something. I don't think so, but it would be nice to see that again. I bet people don't realize how much they're missing that. I bet if Mego puts out a bandaged mummy, you'll have that emotional reaction in a lot of collectors that didn't realize how much they missed that until they see it again. That they haven't seen a new bandaged 8-inch mummy since the 1970s. So that's something, I mean, they did it with this bride. Why can't they do it with the mummy? Because the MC mummy costume is terrible. It looks like the corn that you're peeling, the husk off of an ear of corn or something. It looks weird. And Mego made another mummy a couple years ago, or a year or two ago, that was a generic mummy that had a nice costume, but it wasn't bandaged. There have been some custom mummy figures that have bandages, but there hasn't been an official licensed Universal Studios mummy, or any kind of a mainstream manufactured 8-inch mummy figure with bandages in almost 50 years. Even the 70s Mego mummy, the Mad Monsters mummy, didn't have bandages. It had a printed costume. And reissues of that Mego mummy in the last 15 years likewise have a printed pattern instead of actual bandages. So if I could request anything from Mego, if you really must reuse that MC head of Karloff as Imhotep, I wish you wouldn't, but if you do, could you please consider actual bandages wrapped up like a 1970s Azrak-Hamway International or a Lincoln International action figure, bandage mummy. Or if you do the Hammer mummy, which I hope Mego does, the Hammer Christopher Lee mummy, I hope that also has bandages. That would be nice. Actual bandages. And I think if they do that, I think collectors will be surprised at having an emotional reaction, because they haven't, collectors of a certain age, because they haven't seen that in so long, and they didn't realize that they were missing it. But I think they'll realize it when they see it, if they see it. I think they'll realize that this is something from their childhood that they haven't seen in decades, and now here's another example of it. Okay, Mego's doing a Son of Frankenstein Karloff figure that I thought was going to be shipped to me with these, but it wasn't. But it's the same figure, just with a woolly, furry vest like Karloff has in Son of Frankenstein, but it's the same head, same body, same hands, probably the same. I don't know if it's the same pants and boots or not. We'll see. But it's the same head, and it's the same color, and it's just got that furry vest over it. But we'll have that on here eventually. We'll take a look at that. And I guess that's it. Okay. We'll have more Mego figures in the weeks to come. I still haven't gotten through all the ones I have on hand, and I've got more on the way. But I don't want this to become the Mego channel, so we will intersperse the Mego reviews with episodes about other toys, vintage toys. And we're coming up to the end of the season. This is the third season of Basement of Horror, and we're getting near the end. And then I take a few months off, and then we come back for the Halloween season and do it again. But we still got a few weeks before the end of the season, so we still have some more episodes. And even during the summer, I'll do some special episodes here and there. So it's not completely gone, but the show runs in seasons. For those who haven't been watching the whole time, it has like a season of roughly 6 or 7 months, and then it's off over the spring and summer, and then it comes back in the fall for Halloween, and it runs through the winter into the spring, and then stops again. And the reason I did that, first of all, I need the break. I need the break. And I need time for other things. Also, there were other YouTubers who did that and did their shows in seasons like that, and I liked I liked how they did that because it was nice to have some closure to a season and then have something to look forward to when the next season started. I like that. I don't see as much of that anymore. But, a couple of years ago, there were some prominent YouTubers who were doing it that way, and I thought that was cool. And, I'm old school. I like old-fashioned stuff. And I like the way TV shows had a season, and it would come to an end, and you have to wait to next season. So that's the way I wanted to do this. It's a little strange for a YouTube show to be structured that way, but that's the way it is. However, my Basement of Horror Facebook group will continue on, and I'm thinking once I'm not doing the show regularly during the hiatus, during the break, the off season, I will devote more attention to that Facebook group and perhaps have some content on that Facebook group to fill the gap. So if you're not a member of the Facebook group, you definitely need to follow the link in the description and go to the Basement of Horror Facebook group and join that group. Also, if you've not subscribed, well, tisk tisk, why have you not subscribed? You need to subscribe. There should be a graphic now. A glorious digital, whatchamacallit, graphic on the screen. Subscribe to the channel. Click the bell so you'll be notified when new episodes come. And hey, I'm closing in on almost 2,000 subscribers. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a milestone for me. I'm hoping by the end of this season that we'll have 2,000 subscribers. If not, we'll be close. It would be nice to reach that milestone. And one other thing, my documentary, In Love with Toys, the restored, remastered version, has been nominated for a Rondo Award. If you're not familiar with the Rondos, they're an annual award program for achievements in film and pop culture fandom, like scholarship, like books about horror movies, or documentaries about horror movies, or magazines about horror movies, or events about horror movies or the horror genre. And they've been going on for I don't know how many years. Has it been 20? I'm not sure. I didn't look up how many years, but it's roughly 20, more or less. So it's a big deal in the horror fan community, the Rondos. And I will put, if I remember, a link in the description to vote on the Rondo Awards. And you can vote for my documentary, In Love with Toys, for Best Documentary in the Rondo Awards. I'll put a link in the description. All right, I think that's it. How many hours are we at now? Okay. Only I could spend an hour talking about 2 action figures. Well, I hope you like it, or else why would you be here? I don't know. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Until next time, remember, the one who dies with the most toys is dead.